So I pulled out my yogurt maker. I pulled out my Reuteri whey from the freezer. I went and bought some raw milk, and I'm making Reuteri yogurt again. Hi there, my name is Sue. Welcome to my channel. If you've not been here before, I've been eating a carnivore diet for a bit over 2 years, and today I'm going to talk about Reuteri yogurt and my results from consuming that and SIBO yogurt in the past, and why I am starting to make that again. So last year, if you've not visited my channel before, you won't know my history with my gut health. You can go back and have a look at my videos because I'm not going to go through all the details here. But suffice it to say that I've had kind of decades of IBS diarrhea. And when I started on the carnivore diet, that didn't get better. And so I was looking for answers after, still having IBS diarrhea for over a year, basically. And I ended up realizing that I probably had SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and potentially SIFO, so small intestinal fungal overgrowth. Part of my story with my gut health or my overall health is mold illness. I worked in a very, very moldy building here in New Zealand. I worked in there for 4 years, a number of years ago, and then when we came back, I went back in there again for another 4.5 years. And this time when I went back in there, it really, really tanked my health. And I realised eventually that it was really causing me problems. And so I ended up moving my business home. But it had made such a big impact on my health that things kind of were getting worse and worse for me. And I was trying to undo what had been done with the mold, and that was basically how I ended up on the carnivore diet, I guess. And so when I started on carnivore initially, my gut health improved a little bit to start with, and then all my symptoms did, and then everything just went backwards, and I had this kind of ongoing IBS diarrhea that I'd had for years, except it got worse. And so, I was looking for answers, and when I kind of realised that, hey, I've probably got SIBO or SIFO, I started looking for information on that, and I was trying a couple of different things. I took berberine for a little while, which definitely had an impact on my digestive system, and I took some oregano oil for a little bit, and it was around that time that I came across Dr. William Davis and started listening to some interviews with him. Now, what he was saying was really interesting, and I ended up buying his book. So I'll put a link to this book below. So for some people might find it a little bit heavy going, the book. Some of it's a little bit kind of technical, but not too bad, And so Dr. Davis, what he has discovered over years of kind of looking into all of this stuff, he's a cardiac specialist, and discovered that the microbiome was affecting people's cardiac health. And so he started kind of digging into that, and it's become his thing. And what he's found is that by fermenting specific strains of bacteria for long fermentation times, so 36 hours, you can make these fermented dairy products that are really high in really beneficial bacteria. Now, so he talks about in there basically 3 strains of bacteria. So there is L. gasseri, Bacillus coagulans, and L. reuteri. And he has combined those 3 together to create what he calls SIBO yogurt. And that was the initial yogurt that I was making when I first started. And so it contains all 3 of those bacterias, and they need to be specific strains. I have links below my video to those strains of bacteria, because like in Bacillus coagulans, you'll get that bacteria, but there's different strains of them. And so he's tested specific strains, and so his advice is to use those because he knows that they work. And the reason for using these bacteria is that they make themselves like bacteria sins or bactericides. I can't think what they're actually called, but they are basically like an antibiotic, I guess, that kills off the bad bacteria in our gut or helps to control their numbers. and that's why he uses these. And so when you ferment these for a long time, most yogurts are fermented just between 8 and 12 hours, but when you ferment these bacteria in dairy for 36 hours, what happens is that the numbers start to climb. They go like this, and then the last, I think it's the last 6 hours or 8 hours or something, the numbers really shoot up. And so you end up, Dr. Davis has had batches of this tested, and you end up with a dairy product that contains about 28 billion or more live bacteria per half cup. And that's why these yogurts work so well to heal the gut and control the SIBO and small intestinal fungal overgrowth, because they're in such large numbers if you eat these every day. Now, I was making and consuming these yogurts along with kefir. I was making kefir with raw dairy, because the more of these varieties of bacteria you can get in, potentially the better. And so I actually started fermenting vegetables again back then as well, just to get different varieties of these good bacteria in. But the SIBO yogurt and the Reuteri yogurt definitely made a big difference to my digestive health. So the SIBO yogurt I found was quite easy to make and quite predictable in its results. The Reuteri yogurt is a little bit different. It can be a little bit finicky, especially to start with. But what I found is if you keep keeping your whey from your batches, it gradually gets better. It's like it takes a while to get used to the milk that you're using. And so I've kept my whey in the freezer. You can store your whey from your yogurt in the freezer for 12 months easily. They will live, and that you can bring them out and use them, and they're fine. What I do is I just put it into muffin tins or ice cube trays and put them in a bag with the date on them and freeze them that way. Kefir grains also you can freeze. I just store those in some milk powder in a plastic bag, and again date it so that you know how old the grains are, and that way you've always got some on hand. So the Reuteri whey that I pulled out of the freezer in the weekend is from January this year, so it was 6 months old, and it's worked perfectly. So I pulled mostly Reuteri out. So I pulled out one from a muffin tray, so it's like that size by about that deep, and I pulled out a couple of ice cube trays of the SIBO yogurt, and I've mixed those together just because I thought, well, I really want my first batch to work properly. I don't want it to be a fail. And because the SIBO yogurt was a little bit more predictable, I mixed those together. But when I pulled my yogurt out this morning, it had all worked perfectly. I'll pop a little video of this in. It was early this morning, and that was why the light's a bit weird there. But when I pulled it out this morning, it was fine. It's very definitely high in Reuteri because I can taste it. The Reuteri has a slightly more cheesy taste, I guess, than the SIBO yogurt. So it's definitely, I could tell that it was more Reuteri in that batch, which is great. And so that's a good start. So if you're going to make the Reuteri yogurt or the SIBO yogurt, you need a yogurt maker that will ferment for 36 hours. I have got one that I bought especially for this, and it's brilliant, and I'll put a link to that below. So if you want to check that yogurt maker out, most yogurts only ferment, and yogurt makers they only do a 12-hour time. So if you're using one of those, you've got to keep resetting the time and remembering to do so. Whereas this one, you can set it for the full 36 hours, and it has varying you can vary the temperature on it as well. I've been very, very happy with this yogurt maker, and highly recommend it. I've actually got a review on them on my channel, which I will link to as well. Now, Reuteri, the reason that I've decided to start having it again, I mean, my gut health seems to be pretty good. I'm not having any issues with diarrhea or anything of late, which is absolutely amazing. But what I've noticed is that I've been craving dairy for a start, and I don't know whether that's something maybe nutritional that my body needs, or whether it's just wanting something extra. It's the middle of winter here in New Zealand, and my mood has been really flat, and I've been kind of really struggling with life in general at the moment. Not depressed, but just feeling very dissatisfied and just, not in a very good place, struggling. And I think that is in a big part, it's the whole seasonal affective disorder thing that has always affected me here in New Zealand. This winter's been a little bit better weather-wise. I mean, we've had some nice clear days with sunshine. I've been trying to get out on those days for a walk, or at least, spend, a little bit of time in the sun. But we have a lot of cloudy, yucky, cold weather. And I mean, today outside it's windy and grey and wet. And we lived in Australia for a lot of years, and hubby and I both really miss the weather over there and the lifestyle. And I mean, our plan is to go back over there and probably retire in Australia. But right now we're here in New Zealand, so I've kind of got to make the most of it. And so I thought that maybe the Reuteri might help, because Reuteri has a whole lot of benefits. But one of them is releasing oxytocin in the brain. And so oxytocin is one of our kind of feel-good chemicals that is to do with love and connectedness, with other people and that sort of thing. And I think I could probably do with some of that right now. And the Reuteri, there's been quite a lot of research done on it. It was first isolated apparently in 1962. And, as I've mentioned, it's great for SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and small intestinal fungal overgrowth. Really good for digestive disorders in general. Helps to control or get rid of H. pylori, which is the bacteria that causes stomach ulcers. It protects the gut barrier. It suppresses inflammation and reduces oxidative stress. And it also has been shown to control fungal species, so molds and candida species in the body. And, like for myself, I still have, especially at the moment, and I don't know whether it's the whole seasonal thing, whether it's to do with oxalate or, just oxalate dumping or what, but I've been kind of experiencing quite a lot of pain in my body off and on, just general kind of muscle pain and stuff. And I also still have quite a bit of issue with nasal congestion off and on. And so I'm wondering if there's still something going on there with mold. And, mold in the body releases oxalate. It can release oxalate. I mean, that potentially could be a thing. And so I thought the Reuteri, it might be worthwhile having it again for, maybe another 6 months or whatever, or longer, and see how I go. I remember feeling quite good when I was on the yogurts. And so, the reason that I stopped them was I wasn't sure whether the dairy was inhibiting my weight loss. But there was no miraculous change in weight loss after I stopped having it. So I don't know whether it was or not. But if I start having it again, and then I'll start doing some fasting again, and then see how I go and see whether the weight continues to come off with the fasting or not. So other benefits of Reuteri, which hubby and I could both do with, is it improves skin. It helps with the whole aging of skin, which is always a good thing. So it helps with muscle growth and bone density. It helps with weight loss, or can do. It helps to increase insulin sensitivity as well. So, and it can also help with cholesterol levels. Not that that's really an issue, but it can help. It's been found in studies to help with cholesterol issues. So that's why I'm making it again. Hubby and I are both going to have it. It helps with sleep too. That's the other thing. And it can help babies with colic. So if you have a baby with colic, Reuteri can help. I'll pop a study link below the video, if I remember, along with the link to Dr. Davis's book. So not sure whether I've already mentioned this, but the bacterial count Dr. Davis has found in the yogurt when he's had it tested can be in excess of 28 billion CFU. So that's colony forming units or live bacteria per half cup serving. So that's a huge difference compared to buying probiotic products. The most CFU you'll usually get in most probiotic products is maybe 1 billion or 5 billion, I think I've seen in some extreme cases. But yeah, nothing like you'll get in these yogurts. You can make this yogurt from with coconut milk, but you need to pay attention to what's actually the ingredients in your coconut milk and find a really clean one. I know in the past, prior to Carnivore, when I was very plant-based and focusing on all that, I used to make yogurt with just plain yogurt. It wasn't this stuff, with coconut milk and coconut cream out of the can. What I didn't realise back then was that the emulsifiers they use in the coconut milks and coconut creams actually destroys your gut. And so I used to use a lot of coconut milk and coconut cream. But those emulsifiers, what they do is that they actually destroy the mucus layer in the small intestine. So it's like Dr. Davis talks about this, and how it's like when you put dishwashing liquid into a sink with, into water with fat, and it disperses that fat. The emulsifiers basically do that with the mucus lining that is supposed to be in our small intestine. So it destroys your gut health. And so if you are going to make this yogurt with coconut milk because you can't do dairy or whatever, you need to really pay attention to the ingredients and try and find one without the emulsifier in it, because otherwise you're just probably wasting your time. My suggestion would be always to use animal products. Now knowing what I know, being on the carnivore diet, and finding milk that you can tolerate. If you have access to raw milk, A2 and preferably raw milk, then you can make it the way I do and just heat it and make your yogurt that way. So I think, like my focus initially with carnivore, because it was causing me so much problems, was the whole diarrhea thing. And once the diarrhea started to settle down, I thought that coming off the yogurts might be a good idea. But I'm wondering if the inflammation and stuff that goes on in my body still is. I don't know whether it's something in my diet still that's causing problems. Possibly is, or whether it's just the whole seasonal affective disorder thing, or whether it's I don't know, just whether it's mold and still in my body, whether there's something still going on there. So yeah, my only concern with the yogurt is that I really like it, and so I tend to overeat it a little bit. And so I need to try and get a bit of a handle on that, I think. I was listening to a video with Dr. Lisa Wiesman and someone else. Can't think who it was recently. And Lisa was talking about, having sober behaviour around foods. She always asks herself, can I have sober behaviour around this? Like she said, she doesn't keep cheese in the house because she wants to eat it all in one go, and finds herself doing that. And I'm a little bit like that not with cheese, but with other dairy, yogurt and even the raw milk and cream, like my decaf with cream. I just love that. And I've spoken before about how, I don't think that coffee really agrees with me. But I keep buying it. I keep buying the decaf. And now that I'm having it with cream, it's like dessert. And I just absolutely adore it. And so, I have a couple of those a day. But then on the days that I'm working, I don't tend to. Just because I know that it might upset my gut a little bit sometimes. And that's one of the reasons that I think I need to stop the coffee. It might even be that that's causing me the inflammation in my body, because I just don't really feel like it does great things for me. So I've been looking for something to kind of replace it with, because I feel like I need to replace it with something. I've tried not having it and not having any kind of hot drinks, but right now I feel like I need something. I in Australia for quite a long time I didn't used to drink any teas or coffees at all, but I've really got into the habit of having those since we've been back in New Zealand. I think in the winter too, in the cold weather. I kind of tend to want something, and I can't do homemade bone broth because I end up with histamine issues. And the powdered bone broth, I do buy that, but it's too expensive to drink all the time. So I'm looking at rooibos tea right now as an alternative because caffeine doesn't agree with me. So the green tea and stuff, I can't do that. And that's why I drink decaf coffee. And then there's other herbs. There was something that I watched just recently about rooibos that kind of stood out as one tea that was potentially a lot better than others, but I can't remember what that was. So yes, I'm going to wait till I finish my current decaf, and then I'll have a go at just replacing that with rooibos tea, I think, for a while. And then in the summer, I might just try and drop the hot drinks completely. I'll see how I go. So I thought I'd put a bit of an update on the end of this video. I don't think I'm going to make my weight loss goal that I set myself back at the end of April. So I did a video back then with a goal of 10 kilos over 3 months, which I knew was a really huge goal, probably a bit over the top considering that I've only actually dropped 10 kilos in 2 years on carnivore. But I did manage to drop 3 kilos in May just with fasting. And so I was doing fasting, some longer fasts and then some alternate day fasting, but then I got to the point where I was really starting to get a bit food obsessed. So I decided to give myself a break and I had a break for 3 weeks. Then I did a 3-day fast, and then I ended up sick with a cold flu kind of thing. And it's been 3 weeks, I think, now since I got crook, and I still have a bit of a niggly thing going on with my voice. I don't know whether you can hear it in the video, and a bit of a niggly cough, and I still get a little bit tight in the chest at night time. So I haven't gone back to any fasting at this stage. I thought I'd leave that until I'm actually feeling really well again. And so I haven't been doing much in the way of any kind of exercise or anything either, apart from a bit of walking. I need to, once I'm feeling better, get back onto I was doing some rebounding and some skipping prior to getting sick a few times a week, and so I want to get back to that and just doing some body weight exercise at this stage, some push-ups and squats and that sort of thing. So once over the next week, I think I'll probably get back into that because I'm starting to feel like I might be able to. And my weight, I haven't gained any weight, but I haven't lost any either on the scales. My clothes are probably very slightly looser. I have a pair of board shorts that I had bought when we were in Australia, and I couldn't even get them on when I started on carnivore. Now they are actually quite comfortable, and they've got no stretch or give in them. So I use them as a bit of a gauge. I've got a couple of clothing items that I use as a gauge because they have no give. And so those board shorts have got very slightly looser, and then another top that I had that was too small has got very slightly looser as well over the last few weeks. So even though my weight isn't moving on the scales, something is happening. That's been happening since I've been on carnivore. I'll go through phases where I don't drop anything on the scales, but I'm just getting that little bit smaller, and I can tell by those clothes that that's happening. And the other things that I was going to mention was that I had duck for dinner last night for the first time in a very long time. It was okay. It wasn't as great as I remembered it being, but it was okay. I had some wine on the weekend for the first time in quite a while. I actually had a bottle of Moe that my son and daughter-in-law had given me probably 18 months ago. And it's been sitting there waiting. And there's been a few times when I thought, I might open that. But then I haven't because, I know that I won't drink it myself. I didn't want to waste it. And then on Friday, I was just feeling a bit meh. As I said, I've been a bit kind of flat mood. And when I was working, I thought, I might open that bottle of Moe and we can drink that. So hubby actually mentioned on Friday after I finished work that he wouldn't mind a drink. He was thinking about having a gin. And I said to him, well, we can open that bottle of Moe. So he did. And I had 1.5 glasses. He had 2 glasses. We both had hangovers by the time we went to bed. And we both had diarrhea in the morning. And so we finished it the next night, and we just had about 3/4 of a glass each. That's all that was left in there. And and that was fine. That didn't bother us too much. And the other thing that I did that was different this weekend was I made some carnivore ice cream, which I haven't done for quite a long time. It's probably been at least a year, I think, since I made that. And so if you've not had carnivore ice cream, it's made with cream and eggs. And I used allulose to sweeten it. And so that's been a really nice treat over the last couple of days. And there's still some more in the freezer. So we'll probably finish that over the next few days. Now, I probably won't make it again for another year, but, it's just something a little bit different. As I said, I've been kind of craving dairy products, and I don't really know why. So, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. So the Reuteri yogurt, I will do some updates on how I'm going with that, and I'll get back to some fasting probably over the next week or two once I kind of feel like I'm really over this cold flu thing that I've had. I have links below to the bacteria for the Reuteri yogurt and the Dietary yogurt. I have links to those below. I have links to my yogurt maker. So if you've got any comments or questions on anything I've spoken about today, pop those below and I'll get to those as soon as I can. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and like and share. That helps my channel to grow. I thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you again another day. Goodbye for now.